these roadblocks that are the judges in his desire to deport.
We're spending taxpayer money on this. Well, guess what?
Well, it's so inefficient to deport them. Understand that, yes, that's probably true.
Let's hop into a rather odd Fox News panel about immigration, as I don't think they're making the argument they quite think that they are. So strap in. First, if you can, leave us a like on the video. We really appreciate it. It helps out more than you know, so leave us a like if you can. And let's hop right into the madness.
What are they doing? Hey, here's $1,000, here's $1,000. Get on a plane, we'll get you out of here, and in doing so, we can document who you are, where we sent you, so that if you come back, we have a stronger case, and maybe we can track you before you get here.
That is fascinating. Cheryl, talk to me about the money.
It makes economic sense to do it this way. You've already got critics coming out and saying we're spending taxpayer money on this. Well, guess what? Let me give you an economic example of what happened here in New York City. We've spent $7.5 billion on migrants in this city. We spend $307 per migrant. We only spend $207 per homeless person in the city of New York because of all the services that go along with the migrant population. So overall, those hotel rooms that we gave them, that could have been given to tourists that were going to come and actually spend money in our city that did not spend that money.
Lots of propaganda in just a few seconds there. So let's first address that. Undocumented migrants pay billions into taxes. In New York specifically, undocumented migrants paid over $3 billion in taxes. They represent more of the New York workforce than the New York population. Figure out what that means, MAGA. And the average annual tax contribution per undocumented immigrant nationally is almost $9,000. So who cares if what the cost is $300? All while, again, they're not taking from the services they pay into, which provides a bigger net benefit than U.S. citizens. Also, to the extent that hotels are used to like shelter migrants, it's hotels that are otherwise out of service, and it's through a deal that the New York state government struck with these private companies that allow them to actually save money compared to the traditional DHS shelters, which is what MAGA would want. And I mean, because like these people are here, they're also human, they often contribute with taxes. Why would we want them on the streets? That's also just going to lead to more emergency services, more tax burdens for Americans. I mean, logically doesn't make much sense.
President Trump has said if you self-deport, you get back online with legitimacy to get back in this country. And it can happen, and even happen more expeditiously than it had happened before everybody was flooding the country illegally.
Well, yeah, and it's probably less scary for them as well because they can take it into their own hands versus maybe being sent to El Salvador, right, which is the message that President Trump has been trying to send with that. So it took me a minute to go through this as well and to process it. And at first I was thinking, look, I don't really like the idea of incentivizing illegal immigration. But that being said, this is when you see the businessman side of President Trump. Because what do you do when you're in business if you're a businessman? You try to solve problems, and you're looking out for the bottom line. And solving the problem, you look at President Trump running into these roadblocks that are the judges in his desire to deport, you know, these mass deportations that he's trying to do.
No, it's entirely all about the cost. Mass deportations are stupidly expensive, while also pulling from our workforce and pulling from our tax base massively. Undocumented immigrants are expected or projected to pay over $1 trillion in taxes over the next decade. What would we replace that with if we deport them all? That is an answer Trump will never speak on, right? Not to mention the cost. The cost for deportation flights are around $14,000 to $17,000 a person. Let's use the low end of 14 to be generous, something MAGA would never do. If we're saying there's 10.5 undocumented immigrants in the country, that's the lowest in estimate. Again, being generous, that's another $147 billion in costs on top. If they all self-deport for the 6,000, that's still $63 billion. So this is a cost of around $1.1 trillion over the next 10 years to do mass deportation, where the clear answer is just mass amnesty, which costs us nothing over the next 10 years, only increases our workforce and increases our tax base.
Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri said this last hour. He puts that number between 15 and 20 million, which is closer to what President Trump has been saying all along. You know why? Because we're getting a better idea of who's in the country, which speaks to the issue that you were talking about.
No, absolutely. Real quick, the thing is, a lot of Democrats or those opposed to this immigration policy will say, well, it's so inefficient to deport them. Understand that, yes, that's probably true. If we lived in a world where we had a secure border, a wall around it, and we knew who was in this country and how they got here, and we knew for sure that there weren't others coming, then we could focus on those here and look at things like amnesty and work to citizenship. The reason why Republicans have had to take such a hard line on, nope, you got to deport first, is because we opened the floodgates and brought so many people into this country for so long, and things like Nancy.
I mean, you literally can't write this any better. I love that he's like, well, yeah, it's not more efficient at the end. Like, you have to admit it, right? And if we're saying it's 20 million undocumented immigrants, right, the flight costs become 120 billion on the low end for all self-deports to 280 billion on average, which By comparison, to put this into reality, to end homelessness in America, estimates range only $11 to $30 billion a year, ending food insecurity estimated to be solvable in America for around $168 billion a year. Hell, a $5,000 child tax credit is only a bit more expensive than the mass deportation of 20 million undocumented immigrants at only around $360 billion. Free college is around $80 billion a year. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but Trump would rather focus on the issue that loses America $1 trillion or trillions of dollars over the long term than the ones that would turn around, make us money instantly, not cost us any, and stem multiple downstream effects that we see from wealth inequality. But this is what happens when you elect someone who wants to focus on racism over what's best for the American people.